Why do so many land deals fall apart after years of work? And what do the best investors do differently to avoid it? This is what separates a land investor from a land speculator. When was that moment that you said, I'm going to become a land broker? Did you start being a land broker from the get-go, or tell us a little bit about that?
So I went to work for a company that the owner of the company was from an ag background. He was in the beef industry. Was a really good mentor of mine, Bob Bolin. He had agents that were all former farmers from around the state. There's about 8 of us from spread out across Michigan. We just knew a lot of landowners and family farms and things like that across the state. And so we helped a lot of farmers work through financial workouts, deal with retirement and what to do with their land. So to other farmers or help divide it up. And so in the late 90s, when the population was really booming, we would basically buy a piece of farmland from our clients, give them the options of selling it for them, or if they wanted to sell it and not deal with it, we'd buy it. And that worked out really great until about 2007. That's when I couldn't give away any of my land listings. So I switched over and came to Swisher Commercial in Ann Arbor, which has been in business for 58 years. And we're a boutique firm here, an agent-owned company. We do a lot of all aspects of commercial real estate. We have a management arm as well as landlord rep, sales, investments, and business sales. So I've really done everything across the market. I started out selling homes as well as land. After about my second open house, I think I had enough of that. But I just gravitated to land just because I had a couple of good mentors that I started with, Bob Bolin that I mentioned, and another gentleman that was a farmer from Missouri named Charlie Koenn. And he showed me how to measure out land. We had to work with the big maps. We didn't have any of the mapping programs or programs we have today. We can look everything up online. I had to go to the county offices at the equalizations and buy the big maps and lay them out with a pencil and a ruler and plot out how we divide them up. Did a lot of soils and driveway and private road applications and just assisted a lot of clients, and then ended up investing in some land myself and site condominiums, full subdivisions, and lots of land divisions and splits.
So seeing that you have seen so many deals in the front lines, especially with those big tract of lands, can you share a transaction that tells the full story of how unpredictable this business can be?
I'd been talking to this family for years. They had it under contract and had it almost finalized and approved for 250 housing subdivision. And then 2007 hit and 2008. So they just continued to own it for years. And then I continued to talk to them over the years. And then when they were ready to sell, we actually listed it. And then I listed the neighbors next door and ended up selling both of those chunks of property to one buyer. Did not need approval, just wanted to buy it and own all of it. It's on the edge of the city limits, and that was 620 acres in 2 sales. That was unpredictable because I thought it would be years of time, taking time to go through the approval process and getting a 425 agreement for sewer and water and going through that whole entitlement process, which would have taken a couple of years.
From a broker seat, what do the best investors do different that most, people never get to see?
Most of the investors that I've worked with that are looking to just buy and hold land, they still have an exit plan. They know what they can do, bank on a certain appreciation, and have a couple different options of what their exit plan is going to be and how long they're going to hold it. So it's just like buying anything else. They're not just buying it for an emotional standpoint. They're buying it from a long-term investment standpoint.
In those deals where land bankers buy the parcels, since they're not going, it's not going to be contingent on an approval of something, what is the due diligence period? I'm just curious, normally.
Anywhere from 60 to 120 days. They're still going to do their soils, their environmental, and just review the master plan maps for the municipality they're in and just see what the future holds for it, know that they've got some options.
Can you walk us through a deal where you had to hold everything together behind the scenes just to get it across the finish line?
Sometimes deals just come together easy, and it's really great. You don't remember those easy deals as well as you do the hard ones. I'm dealing with one where the owner had bought 2 pieces of land, 2 adjacent parcels, owned them for like 40 years. Sewer came down, traffic lights came down, road improvements came down. He was ready to sell it. We ended up reallocating owning those parcels, and he put a lot of money into it from an investment standpoint, but he also was able to donate that land, a portion of that land, some of the infrastructure, to a nonprofit for a children's healing center. That was very rewarding for him. It was very rewarding for everybody involved.
Think about a time where a deal completely fell apart, and what did that experience teach you about managing expectation and relationships with clients?
I try to manage the expectations up front, and I think that's one of the things that people sometimes don't realize is how much time it's going to take to go through the process. But I just had a deal that it's not officially dead yet, but we've been working on it for 2 years. I'm representing the seller and another agent's representing the buyer and the developer. They were just going through their due diligence, very capable. And so we didn't really ask about how things were progressing. And we just were banking on it closing. And then all of a sudden we're at the end of the due diligence, and it's like, they're probably not going to close now because they couldn't get what they needed with the township. My client, his staff, have a very good relationship with the township. And had we been more involved, we probably would have been able to get that through for the buyers. So I think just staying in touch, even if you're not representing the buyer, but working through and making sure that all parties are communicating in the process together can help make sure that something's not getting missed, or that discovering all avenues and making sure that no stone's unturned and getting through the approvals. So utilizing those relationships that you have with the local municipalities should never be taken for granted.
You work closely with investors every day. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that they have when entering a new market or deal?
Sometimes they don't understand the local politics, even though they've dealt with other difficult municipalities in the past all across the country. But I think every different municipality has nuances and personalities that can affect how smooth or how difficult a deal and approval process can be. And it generally always takes more time than what they anticipate.
How do you spot a serious buyer or investor within the first few conversations? What signals stand out to you?
I usually give them all the basic information about the property and then kind of give them a vision of potential that I can see in the property, potential uses. It just depends on if serious buyers, they don't make a lowball offer and they don't sit there and point out everything that's wrong with the property. That you know that they're serious to see the benefits of the property. They might have some hesitations or questions, but as soon as you give them all of that information and they can understand it, you know when you're dealing with a sophisticated buyer versus an unsophisticated tire kicker, just by how they respond and what information or questions they have.
Do you prefer to work with the savvy land investor or a rookie that lets you take the lead and run with the process? What's easier?
I've worked with both. I think they're just as long as you have a rapport with them and they're not trying to act like they know more than what they do. So it just depends on what their intent is, what their use and requirements are going to be. People that buy a lot of land, once you build a rapport and a relationship with them, of course, those transactions go easier, but don't ever assume that they remember everything, because anytime you think, well, they know that and they know that, I just keep reminding myself, just make sure that you tell them anyway. Just even if you think they know it and they know it, you should just make sure you tell them everything.
What trends are you seeing right now in your area? I know that you mentioned that you've done a lot of for subdivisions for multifamilies. Are you still seeing a lot of developers going for multifamily subdivisions in your area?
So I don't do as much multifamily as single family, and the single family developers right now are mostly larger versus smaller local groups. The cost of infrastructure is really prohibitive. So I even have some builder developers that own land that's fully entitled, and they're not putting that infrastructure in yet because the cost does not pencil. It's really a challenge. And you have the national incentives that they're talking about, trying to increase housing stock and everything like that. It's a challenge, and I'm not sure what the answers are right now.
Do you think that this is going to go on for how many years? I wish if we had that information, if we had that crystal ball, we would not be here right now.
I don't agree with prohibiting national investors to do build to suit rentals. I think that that's another avenue for younger families to at least get into home versus apartments. Whether it's a national investing company that's building those single families or individuals, it's going to create a gateway for them to get into having a family have their own house versus being in a townhome or an apartment. Florida, you have people wanting to move there. There's not people moving to Michigan. We're like population growth, I think we're at the bottom of the 50 states. We're like 45th to 47th, where you guys are at the top of the peak. So there's a big difference in worlds. But we still have the same challenges going through the entitlement process. Having the NIMBYism is very, very robust right now. Whether you're building a high-end subdivision or attainable housing, you're still going to have neighbors coming out of the woodwork complaining about traffic, noise, lights, strain on the school systems. And this is in a community where they need more growth. They need more tax revenue. They have an empty school, but yet the neighbors are concerned about what the prices of the house are going to be. Because if everybody had that same attitude, they would have never been able to get into that community. I think there's a national drive for bringing home ownership to the younger generations because the first-time home buyers' average age is increasing. The affordability is still a challenge. It's not that builders are making more money and they're just charging more and they're greedy. They still have the same profit numbers. I mean, all of these national builders they have their guidelines, they have their pro formas, and if they can't make it work, then somebody else isn't going to make it work.
Looking back at your career so far, what story best captures what it really takes to succeed as a broker in this business? What would you tell to someone that is coming into our industry?
Well, you've got to know the inventory. And you've got to understand the lay of what can be done with a piece of property if you're dealing with land. So you really need to know what are the other properties that are under contract and going through approval and how that looks. Become aware of all the steps that are involved in going through the entitlement process. And then having your market presence out there and getting to know all of the landowners so that they know who you are and establish some credibility by doing a couple deals and telling the world about it. But then also really knowing all of the inventory so that when you get people that are looking, you can put those deals together. It's not hard when you know all of the inventory and you have some buyers and you figure out exactly what it is they're looking for. You basically just a matchmaker. The more business that you send to all of those other vendors, then they're going to remember that and they're going to realize that they might have somebody to refer to you. So that's attorneys, trust attorneys, accountants, architects, cement contractors, all of those entities.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.